Good morning, ninjas. If you can hear me in the coffee room, please do join us outside. We're just about to start. All right. For those of you who are standing here, there's some chairs on that side if you'd like to have a seat. Otherwise, standing room only over there. All right. Good morning. How are you feeling? On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? Ones, twos, threes, fours, fives, sixes, sevens, eights. And they're right at the front as well. Nines, 9.5s, 10s. All right, so I can only go downhill from here. Excellent. Welcome, my name is Rohan Bilimoria. I'm the founder of Law Ninjas, which is a global community of lawyers and law students around the world. Our sweet spot is in-house lawyers. A lot of you in the room are in-house lawyers, so thank you for joining us. And it is ninja time. Now, just a few slides and a few admin housekeeping matters, and then we can kick things off. So first up, we begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather today and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. All right, so the agenda for the next 2 days, and they are very jam-packed, is in the email that hopefully you all received. If you don't have the email, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a QR code on each slide which you can scan and it'll take you to the website, it'll take you to the agenda. Otherwise, you can always ask me and I will show it to you. But it is 2 full days. And the key decision or the key problem you're gonna have today is deciding which session to go to because there's panels and workshops running simultaneously, which is something we've never done before anywhere in the world. So it can either go really well or it can be a terrible mistake. So we'll see how we go. So this area here is the Ninja Arena. So this is where all the panels will happen. So if you look at your agenda, the stuff on the left, in the left column, those are panels, and they will all happen here. All the keynotes will also happen here. So this is where the real action happens, and we will have 40-minute panels, 15-minute keynotes, and a lot of other things going on here. That room over there, downstairs, which you can't see right now, but downstairs there's a room called the secret room. So that room is where the workshops will happen. So if you look at the agenda, all the stuff on the right, that's where it will happen. And when we break into our first panel workshop kind of a combination, our team will guide you to where you need to go. But if you get lost, you just have to go downstairs. You can either take the stairs, you can take the lift, and then hopefully you'll see a Law Ninja sign, and that's where you need to go. Now the interesting thing about this area is that everything is going to be live streamed around the world for Ninja Club members. And so, yeah, which is kind of cool, and we're recording everything. And the one downstairs, nothing will be recorded, nothing will be sort of live streamed. So that's why it's called the secret room. You can say whatever you want in there. It's kind of like Vegas, so what happens there stays there. That room, which you can see behind that kind of semi-transparent door, that's called the chat room. So that's where you can go to chat because that's where the coffee cart is. A lot of our sponsored display tables are there, and also lunch is going to be here. So if you want to chat, that's the room to do it in. CBD points. Do you think you can claim CBD points by attending the next 2 days? Excellent. So yeah, just keep track of what you're attending and what you're viewing, and then you'll be able to claim lots of CBD points. So we have a photo booth on the right side there near the bar. Take lots of photos. It's very cool. We've never done an AI photo booth before, but given AI is the hot topic these days, we had to do it. And you can even text it to yourself or email the photo to yourself. So do try it. It's the Aspen Legal Photo Booth. So thank you to the Aspen team for those amazing photos that you're all going to take over the next 2 days. Live streaming, as I mentioned, it's all happening here. Ninja Club. So if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say Ninja Club, and you're going to hear it a lot over the next 2 days, that's the QR code, or you can always ask me. A lot of our people in the room are Ninja Club members, and you'll see it on the agenda, Ninja Black, Ninja Blue, Ninja White. So it is over there. The Ninja Night. I got a few emails yesterday saying, what is a Ninja Night? Is it like something where we learn martial arts, or like what is it? It's just an after party. So we're just gonna do drinks out there, and it's both today and tomorrow. So if you like alcohol, do join us for that. If you don't like alcohol, it's also good because there'll be music and soft drinks. Now there's a number of sponsors, partners, supporters who have made this event possible. And I will say that this list is the most extensive list we've ever had for any Ninja event anywhere in the world, and we've done 25 of these events. So a big round of applause for all of these partners. Our diamond partner is Thomson Reuters. Our platinum partners are Law Squared, Lawyers on Demand, Legal Vision, Luminance, McCullough Robertson. Our gold partners are Halford's IP, Maddox, Pierpoint by Aino Sherman, Prodden Insurance Broking and Advisory, Relativity, Taylor Root, and TransPerfect Legal. Our silver partners are Lawcadia, Litera, Pinson Masons Vario. Our bronze partners are Aspen Legal and Axiom. Our premium event supporters are Elevate, Day One Recruitment, PepsiCo, and Dovetail. Our event supporters are Hive Legal, Law and Order, and PQE Partners. And our coaching partner is Coaching by Neeti. Big round of applause, please. So a lot of our partners on the screen, they have display tables right along the bar and also in that room, and then you're going to see their banners downstairs and up here. So do say hi to them, and if you need me to introduce you to any of them, just find me. Thank you to all the team members. So you see me up here, but I do very little work. It's actually a lot of other people behind the scenes who do most of the work. We've got Man over there. Man, raise your hand. He's the AV guru. So, you know, if you want any song requests or anything, he's the one to chat to. And we've also got Sveta and Marielle and Emily and Sophie, and then Fatima, Denise, and Paula, who are all overseas. Lots of people. So thank you to the team. And thank you to the ninjas. A lot of you are ninjas already, and if you're not a ninja, then please do find me and we'll add you to the community, but thank you to everyone. All right, are you ready? Every year I ask the same question and I get the same response. It can be better than that. Come on, are you ready, ninjas? Excellent. Look, all the people who are sitting, look at all the people who are standing. You've got their seat, so don't hold on to it if you can. All right, so before we begin, and we've got a keynote from our friends at Thomson Reuters, we've got a video to play. Over to you, man.
For a general counsel, no 2 days are ever the same. Advising a business means handling multiple matters all the time, and technology can help you stay on top of it. Before, you'd send large volumes of documents to external counsel for review. Now with CoCounsel Core, you can do this work in seconds. Just upload a third-party contract and ask CoCounsel Core to redline it against your internal position or an up-to-date standard policy from Practical Law. At the same time, ask CoCounsel Core to analyse a database of emails and files to create a chronology of events. Spend less time on mundane tasks with CoCounsel Core's AI skill set. That means more time giving strategic advice and helping your business grow. What's next? Meetings, of course. In-house lawyers often rely on outside counsel, but with a full calendar and your own work to do, why waste time manually checking your law firm's invoices? With Legal Tracker, you can completely automate that process and control your legal spend. You can even outsource matters to different law firms and make informed, data-driven decisions, including insights on the market value of your law firm's rates. And don't spend the rest of your afternoon searching through old documents to build that new contract. Instead, open HiQ, answer a few questions, and it will generate the contract for you. In fact, HiQ can help manage all your legal department operations. oversee matter workflows and contract metrics, create a legal front door with self-service tools, and so much more. Even when you clock off, the work is still being done. That's how Thomson Reuters helps General Counsel and their legal teams work smarter all day, every day. And it's just the start.
Excellent. Thank you to the Thomson Reuters team, Diamond Partners. They've got a display table in the coffee area over there, so do say hi to them. How many of you, show of hands, how many of you have never seen a co-counsel demo or seen it in action? All right, so go see the TR team. And TR team, you note who raised their hands. If you want to know who that amazing model in the video was, that's Tirli right over there. So we brought her in today, and she knows everything about co-counsel and HiQ as well. So do find her during the break. But without further ado, please welcome our first keynote speaker of the third edition of the NextGen GC Summit. And it's also our 25th event anywhere in the world. So thank you so much for joining us. The topic is AI adoption, lessons for the legal teams getting it right. And our speaker is Fiona McClay, AI Enablement Advisor for Thomson Reuters. Big round of applause, please, for Fiona.
Hey, everyone. So I talk to a lot of people about AI at work and at events like this, which is fine, but also now at funerals, weddings, children's birthday parties. I'm an AI use case collector now, and I'm just genuinely fascinated by what people are doing with the tools and how it is infiltrating the way we work, the way our clients are working, and what that just, I think we can't ask enough questions about how we can change up things. I'm here to talk today about some of the things that we're learning, and just to try to give you some ideas about that you can take back and put into practice. One of the things that isn't talked enough about is that just buying these tools is not enough, and we do see people who have bought AI-powered tools and just haven't seen that translate into value. And so I want to talk about some of the common things that are getting in the way, and I want to just walk through some of the things that we're seeing that are making a difference. Why me? Just so you understand a little bit about where I'm coming from, I was a black-letter lawyer in some clerk in a big law firm. I worked in disputes for about 25 years in Sydney and Victoria. I sort of transformed really because I saw how useful these tools could be. I'd worked in big law, in volume practice, then in small law, and I saw how busy lawyers just couldn't take enough time to learn how to use the tools that were available and the tools that were emerging. And I pivoted so that I could help and be somebody who could just help guide that process through. And so now I work as a legal tech consultant, and I'm working with Thomson Reuters to help with that AI enablement piece. What we have seen is just a change in the attitudes to generative AI. So I've been trying to get lawyers to use more technology for, I think probably solidly the last 5 years, but before that, well, I was always that person that was popping up. Did you know we could do that with Excel? That was me. So now what we are seeing is just a different, everybody is now aware that these tools are important and is open to discussion. So there's a huge opportunity if you've been that person like me who's constantly saying, oh, now you've got an audience. So what we are also seeing though is that the tools are getting easier to use, so that's great, but there are some limitations around those tools. So we do need to have, I think, a bit of a sophisticated approach to trialling these tools. It's not just a case where giving people access will automatically turn into adoption of these tools. So this is just, and I'm not going to do a demo of co-counsel, although I highly do recommend you go and talk to that booth next door. And tomorrow after lunch, Ziggy is running a 15-minute session that'll just walk you through how you might deal with a data breach incident with the backup of CoCounsel and the Thomson Reuters resources, which I think is a really nice demonstration of what it might look like in practice for you. But what these tools can do is work with you on everyday tools, and we talk a lot about summarising a lot of the in-house use cases that are popular, summarising meetings, turning that into action items, getting an automatic recap when you couldn't attend a meeting. Also, that first draft, so producing something that you can further edit. Being able to find information quickly in great big data sets, and being able to, maybe it's a set of 100 leases, and being able to pull out the key details you need and have that be organised. Also work with documents that are in a different transaction, or compare documents from a different jurisdiction and see side by side how that looks against either your house policy or your local versions. You also can just ask questions of your documents. So we've seen people who are perhaps working on a suite of transaction documents, just being able to quiz that document, get the answer right then and there while you're in a meeting, rather than have to come back and hold up the negotiations to get an answer about what, the liability cap or something when you've just forgotten that detail. But there are some real challenges. Although these tools are very powerful, there are some unique challenges about generative AI. And we know that lawyers often, and you're often working with people, business people who may not have these same attitudes, but when you're trying to talk to lawyers about using these tools, the stereotypical lawyer personality is quite sceptical and perhaps a little bit of a perfectionist. And generative AI is a very different beast to what we're used to. You have to ask questions of it a different way, and you have to be prepared for there to be a little bit of variation in the way it presents information. It's not going back to the one source and pulling the same answer for you every time. They work differently. If you do put better prompts in, you get better results. The legal AI tools help you with that, so that you don't have to spend as much time on crafting the right prompt. But again, that's not something that we're used to. We're sort of used to Microsoft Word. If you press this button, it will do X to your document. These tools are different. So learning how to make the most of these tools takes a bit of time, and it may also require you to rethink some of your workflows to better make use of the power of these tools. The results can differ. It's just the inherent nature of a generative tool, where it's creating a different output for you. And so that's something that our legal brain finds hard. And it may mean that you have to be careful about what use cases you put a generative AI tool onto. So it's great for brainstorming. What's the other side going to think to this? What else could I include? What have I missed? How could I express this so that a busy person can get the gist of it really quickly? That sort of creative side, lean into that rather than, oh, I need this contract document to have exactly everything I want every time. You just need to find the right use case for the tools. Some of the limits are a bit frustrating, so just in terms of what sort of volume it can handle. And you're going to have real questions about privacy and security, very valid questions, and you need to have answers. So the good news is that there are people who can help you deal with all these challenges, and that's kind of what I want to share with you today about what we're seeing when we're helping teams to work with these tools. That piece around partnership, I think, is really key. We're all too busy to work out how to do all this from scratch. So working with a tech vendor who can help you to get a starting point and get off to a good start with rolling out these tools is key. I was talking to a GC the other day who's setting up a new function, and she'd done all the demos, and she was more confused than ever about which tool. And my suggestion is to just think about maybe rather than buying a tool, but building a partnership and working with someone who can help you narrow down, what are the problems in my business that I can solve with AI-powered tools? How can I make use of the content that perhaps is available that's trusted, rather than having to think, I've got to build out the perfect function and work out all of this tech on my own. What we're seeing working really well is partnering with law firms and taking law firm plus AI solutions to their clients, to their in-house teams, running training sessions together and looking at ways that we can both use the operational expertise inside those the operational expertise inside the business, the law firm for setting up the guardrails, and then the tech vendors for these are the right tools to use for these use cases to solve these business problems. When again we're looking at that social proof one, when we're looking at the typical lawyer personality, a lot of the normal fallback tricks to try to get people to adopt a new tool don't work very well. Persuasion, telling, this is a way we can improve your drafting, you get lawyers' backs up, there's nothing wrong with my drafting. If you try coercion, they have a very high need for autonomy, and there's like, I'm going to do it my way, I don't care what you say. If you try to reward them, they're like, I'm not interested in your Freddo Frog, I can buy my own Cocoa Black, thank you very much. So we need to be a little bit more focused on what is going to land well. And what they do respond to is, I respect X, and X is using this tool and getting good results, and giving them choice. And so just saying, here is another way you could use to, get a contract. I'm not saying, and just leave the whole bit about their quality of their drafting alone, don't even go there. So what we're trying with that is running AI skills challenges, so getting a group of people in a room, giving them the tool, getting them to work through some common scenarios, creating that element of community and sharing, and having senior people that they respect in the room showing that, yes, using these tools is a good thing to do. And having a place where when you do establish a useful use case, being able to share that around the team, that's going to be super important. Being able to share good prompts, being able to share, I've been able to redesign my workflow to get a better result, and this is how I did it. That's part of the work that I'm doing as an AI enablement advisor, and that's why I'm calling myself a use case collector. And if you were lucky enough to stand next to me at the coffee machine, I've probably already asked you what you're doing with AI, but I will continue to that. I'm sharing that around. And then the last one there is that top-down leadership, and that's the other piece that we're really seeing has been making a big difference. So it is asking for leaders to take the time to give people the time to experiment, but also, in your executive meetings, taking 5-10 minutes to say, this is the use case I did and this is what results I got, and just modelling that behaviour, because again, hierarchical institutions, whatever people are, if you're seeing leaders behaving in a certain way, that's very influential. You may be working in a business that is AI forward and they're expecting legal to get on board with this. And I talked to one GC who was sort of paralysed because he knew he had some, I'm going to use his word, which was dinosaurs on his team. And the business wanted him to be AI forward, but he just knew that it was going to be a hard lift to get some of his legal team to adopt these tools. I think, yes, you have to take that seriously and you have to engage with those individuals to help them to move forward and to understand that these tools are now the expectation and not something that they can just avoid. But I think you also can't be too paralysed by individuals' attitudes. And if you can employ some of those strategies around social proof, around sharing, around making that conversation that we as a team, we are improving the way we work. We're making use of the tools that are around. We're accepting that they may not always be perfect, and it's just as valuable to share, I tried this and it didn't work. We're reaching out and getting help from people who know more. So we're talking to the vendors, we're talking to our law firms. We are investing some time and effort in making this work. We're also not trying to boil the ocean. I know I'm giving you a lot here, but some of the firms, I was talking to somebody who spends a lot of time producing a report that collects lots of different information, and she wanted AI to help her do that. And I'm just sitting there going, who reads this report? What does anybody do with it? And so have that bit of a strategic mindset around what tools we're applying AI to, because it can be tempting just to think, oh, this is a horrible manual job, I'll get AI to do it now. This is a horrible manual job that's really important and adds value to my organisation because of X, I'll get AI to do it. Not, this is a horrible manual job that I've been spending 6 hours a week on but nobody reads and doesn't actually add any value. So I just wanted to wrap up. So I've covered a few things there, but really what we're seeing works really well is that piece around partnering with vendors who can help you on this journey. It's a big lift to make the use of AI. These tools are changing, lots of good things coming. You can't do it all on your own, so reach out and get the help that's available. Do look out for opportunities to get that social proof, to be able to persuade people, whether it's the legal teams, whether it's your legal providers. Looking for ways where you can get use cases that you can show people as a first step. So that might be, we've been running some sessions where we go in and work through practical examples. They've been really well received and we've seen big uptake. So just don't say, here you now have X tool, please experiment with it. Our finding is that if you say, you can use X tool to do this task, you'll get a bigger uplift. And then that top-down leadership. So carve out the time to let people experiment with these tools and set that from the top, that this is now the expectation of how we work. Really do encourage you to start using these tools. You can start small. By all means, definitely start safely, but start now. And I think your organisation, you can be one of the person that's driving this change in your organisation, no matter where you are. I've given you a link to some resources that Thomson Reuters has put forward, and these are some steps for a roadmap, both either for an organisation or for individuals, and just stepping you through what you can do to build up your skills and to take that into that leadership role. Thanks very much.
Big round of applause for Fiona, please. All right, so usually at Ninja events, we keep things really, really interactive, and we, invite you and want you to ask lots of questions. So Fiona's going to be at the Thomson Reuters booth just in that room over there. So please do go ask her any questions you want about AI, about TR's products. She's going to be around. So thank you, Fiona. That was fantastic. All right, we're going to break into our first panel and workshop situation. So in here, ninjas, we've got a panel about how to build a strong personal brand. And then downstairs in the secret room, we've got a workshop on how to navigate cultural differences. You have a minute to decide on where you'd like to go. We've got team members, so Emily and Sophie, if you could just raise your hands. We've got our fantastic ninja volunteers who will lead you to the secret room downstairs if you'd like to hear about how to navigate cultural differences. So please do follow them. If you get lost, the registration desk staff can help you as well. Go, go, go team. How to navigate cultural differences in the secret room downstairs with speakers from Greystar, GPS Capital Markets, HCL Tech, and the Sunrise Project. Hi, ninjas. All right, so just as a recap, right in here in the Ninja Arena, we've got a panel for the next 40 minutes on how to build a strong personal brand. And then downstairs in the secret room, we've got a workshop on how to navigate cultural differences. Just so you know, the panels run for 40 minutes, and then at the 20-minute mark, I'll sort of press pause. I'll ask the moderator to sort of press pause, and I'll say, hey, audience, do you have any questions? And so we'll try and address 1 or 2 questions if we can, and then also at the end, if we have time, we'll try and address a question. The purpose of that is to keep things interactive, informal, friendly, and also give you an opportunity to find out what you're actually thinking about that particular topic. So that's how we do it. So if you have any questions, just save them in your memory bank, and we'll try and get to you at the midpoint or at the end. And also, if you ask good questions, you get Snickers bars as prizes. So I hope you like chocolate. All right, let's give the people downstairs another minute or so, just so that they can find their seats down there. And I would encourage you to attend a workshop as well, because how those run is that they're also 40 minutes, but they're way more interactive than the panel. So you actually get to break out into small groups and chat to each other and get to know each other and also discuss the relevant topic. So yes, that is going to be how those ones are run downstairs. All right, without further ado, let's kick things off. The panel today is on how to build a strong personal brand. Our moderator is Ashwin Dushyantira, Head of Legal Risk and Compliance for NTI. Our panelists are Ninja Black, Danielle Keys, Group GC for Nova Entertainment, Jennifer Mulheron, General Counsel and Company Secretary for Harrison AI, and then Ninja Black, Mel Story, Head of Legal for APAC at Pax8. Big round of applause, please, for our panelists. All right, okay, Ashwin, over to you.
Thanks everyone. There we go. That works. Thanks everyone for making it today. And I promised Rohan that I'd keep to time, and he said he's going to be really ruthless, so I'll be good. Today, the topic that we have is how to build a strong personal brand. And one of the things, even when I was so much younger, my mum would say, before I left the door, make sure you show your colors. And to me, what that really emphasized was this piece about authenticity and thinking about how you sort of show up as your true self. But I think one of the interesting things is that when you then start work, that concept of being your true self and authentic can get a bit muddled or change, as you sort of progress. And so I guess the first question to our panel, and maybe I'll throw to you, Mel, is, how does authenticity play a part in building your personal brand at this level of your career?
I think it's everything. If I want to be taken seriously, if I want to be thought of as an expert, as a leader, as someone who is dependable and is part of the business solutions, they want to think legal early. They're going to want to feel like they know, like, and trust you. And the best way to do that is to be consistent, to show up as yourself authentically and build that brand. I think, to clarify as we start, when we say personal brand, it really is just corporate millennial speak for reputation. It is who we are online, offline, how we show up, and how we want to be perceived in the world and what we want to be known for. So I think sometimes we do tend to complicate it with the buzzword, but we all have a reputation, and whether we like it or not, people will talk about us when we're not in the room. We have some way, hopefully, of shaping that to be a positive impact that we make.
Fair. And so I guess then how does that play in, say, an executive, sort of an executive environment, or if you're talking to the board at that level? Jen, Danielle, how does that sort of play a part in your roles?
I actually really liked that you said reputation. I was mulling over why I found it a bit uncomfortable to be on this panel for this particular topic the other night. And I think it's because the idea for me of brand building, personal brand building, doesn't sit well with me. It feels artificial in some ways. When you think of a brand, you're thinking of, your big corporate brands like your Nikes and your Googles, and they have whole teams and budgets dedicated to building an image of something that they think the relevant consumers expect, will respond well to, and want to buy and, interact with. If you apply the same concept to yourself, I think it can come across very easily as disingenuous. And I also think it comes with it a lot of risk, that people tend to see through it very easily if you are not authentic. And they tend to see through it and react very negatively when they feel that the way you're showing up is all about self-promotion, your LinkedIn posts and the way you speak in meetings and the way you promote yourself in conversations and name drop and achievement drop, etc. I think there's a time and place for those things. Like if you're interviewing a job, please go for your life. But I think in the day-to-day, that actually backfires more than aids. And I was coincidentally listening to a podcast when I was driving to work the other week.
A Nova one, I hope.
Adam Grant.
A Nova one, hopefully.
Sorry, no. Oh, that was awkward.
Very awkward. We'll chat later.
Yeah, sorry. He's a US organizational psychologist. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him. Adam Grant. He's a TED Talk speaker. He's got his own podcast. He's released lots of good books. I love his work. And I was listening to his podcast called Rethink, and he just happened to be doing an episode on personal branding and the oxymoron of personal branding. And it really resonated with me. And I do think that the message in that podcast, which is essentially what you said, Mel, is really true, at least for me. It's more about what you are contributing. What are you showing up to do? What is the reputation you are building? And if you focus on that rather than brand building, I actually think you have a much better chance of succeeding.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think a big part of that is building social capital. So we all all of us no doubt have more work than we could do in 1,000 lifetimes. And we get so caught up, and I always make jokes about, the lawyers are in their cages in the basement, and every so often we get, pulled out and put on display. And you kind of secretly go, I'd love to be in a cage in the basement because everyone would leave me alone, and we kind of get in the mindset of, I've got to get all this work out because I've got to execute this stuff for the business. And in that transactional mindset, you then, when you're contacting people, you want things. Give me this, give me that, without building the social capital of just picking up the phone, having a call, that mindset of connection before content. So just literally, if you know someone who was going to a show on the weekend or they had their, child's birthday party, just genuinely asking them how that went. And I think that helps to build trust. It helps to build that social capital that you need for then people to, when you want something from them, they actually do, help you, they work with you, they believe and trust you.
Yeah, it really goes down to that piece about, appearing as a human at work, right? And so really sort of getting to know, who you're working with. But I think one aspect that I'd like to sort of delve into is that how much does building your reputation tie into the culture of the organization that you're at? Do you feel that you have to tailor that reputation based on the organizational culture? Do you feel that it enhances your ability to create a reputation for yourself? Mel?
Yeah, I really like that one because I've made very specific decisions to align myself with employers that understand this and are actually encouraging myself and other colleagues to create an online presence and to be even here today speaking. It's like go, 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 because a rising tide lifts all boats. Your brand is connected with our brand and we go together. And if you're acting in an appropriate way, aligned with the social media policy, thinking about, what would my mum think about this content? What would my CEO think about this content? What would the Queensland Law Society think, from Queensland? What would they think about this content? If it kind of ticks all of those boxes, then you go for it, and aligning yourself with an employer that understands employee-generated content as a very valuable brand proposition and allows you to go and, start a podcast and highlights you as someone who's out there building a brand for yourself and for your employer. So for me, I would suffocate in an environment where I wasn't allowed to do that or be involved or go and speak and get out there in the community because I just couldn't do it. I know it works because I hear from people that had never heard of PAX 8 before, except for perhaps that, I know the lawyer there. And, we're a software distribution company. It's if you're in an MSP or an IT service provider, you may very well know, but others don't. How does that play? Well, you just never quite know when we actually are out looking for our next financial accountant and, I know that brand. Hey, that lawyer works there. That's cool, that's different. They let the lawyer out of the cage to do something cool. Maybe that is a place I want to work at. It's just about that brand, that impression, and the ones that get it. Like the girls that get it, and boys. But the ones that don't, I think are increasingly falling behind.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think from a recruiting talent perspective, but also just from an enjoyment of your job sort of perspective as well.
Yeah, I do think it is important, to your point, Ashwin, about aligning yourself with the business's brand. I mean, you can't be in conflict with it fundamentally, and it's not suggesting that you need to change who you are, but you do need to mould yourself into the environment to be able to build relationships, to be able to influence, and certainly in a general counsel role, to be able to guide and strategise with the business. And I've got a really good example of that. I sort of grew up, if you like, in big global law firms where it was sort of go, 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 very aggressive, and I was a litigator, so cutthroat, do this, do that, sort of one currency of push forward at all costs. In my first in-house role, it was sort of run a bit like a startup, very successful. It was a very similar kind of mindset of push forward and go. So I kind of came into my current role at Nova with that mindset. I sort of likened myself to, Katniss Everdeen in The Hunger Games, where she's the girl on fire and she comes into the stadium and her dress is on fire. That was me when I came into Nova, and they're incredibly blue. And I was not winning friends and influencing people. I was doing the opposite, And actually, I had a tough conversation with the COO, who obviously had my best interests at heart. I was coming into a C-suite role. It was very important to get it right. And he said, "You're far too red. You need to be able to influence, and you need to be able to build trust with your stakeholders, and you need to be more collegiate, and you need to align yourself and the way you conduct yourself with how we do it here as well, so that you're approachable." And certainly in media and entertainment, legal has a massive presence, obviously, because it is such high risk, in a live radio environment. And so to have that voice properly, I had to align myself with how they would listen to me and to trust me and my team. So it is important, I think, to read the room, right? Like, we are, how we communicate or how we like to be communicated to, it might not accord with how other people need that, And I found myself, something you said before, Mel, was, using big words and kind of feeling like, it was you actually, Jen, feeling like you have to have this big brand presence. No one cares about that. If lawyers are sending emails with all these fancy words because it makes us feel good, like a word of the day or something fun that we use, they won't read it.
Is that fun?
Sometimes. Depends what it is.
Wordle.
Yeah.
Word of the day, Wordle.
That's right. But like, bullet points. Like, I found myself going from, originally big law, sophisticated, amazing letters of advice and all the things, to bullet points in an email. Why? Because that's all they care about, And I was talking to someone recently, and he had a really good example of the one flick rule. And the one flick rule was, when he's giving advice to the business, it can only be as long as one flick on the iPhone. If it's any longer than that, it's too long, and start again. And it's actually really good advice, And And now how we want to read things, what we get maybe from the external lawyers is much longer than that, but we need that so we can decipher it. But what goes back to the business is different.
Reading the room, I think, is key. And I do think the most successful in-house lawyers I've ever seen are the ones who have the highest EQ, and they combine that with technical expertise. Like the technical grounding, I think, is a given, but EQ isn't. It's actually quite hard to come across lawyers in particular. I don't know why. Lawyers who have high EQ, and that's really important in like an executive level legal role, because you are dealing with so many different stakeholders from across the business who have different incentives. They all have their own P&L to look after, but your role is to bring them all together and solve the problem for the company. And that's really tricky. And that means, in some respects, you do need to be a bit of a chameleon depending on the person or the audience that you've got. But you've got to still have the key objective in mind and keep steering the ship in a particular way. So I think EQ is super, super key. Coming in red hot is a bit of a recipe for disaster, I think. But also coming in entirely blue is also a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that's right.
It needs to be tailored, right? So if on a particular day I'm having a deep dive conversation with, I don't know, my head of AI engineering, I am going to be using very different tone and very different language and vocabulary versus if I'm on the phone call with one of my directors about something. Like, you do have to be able to tailor and pivot, and that, I think it does come from, I'm going like this because you have to feel it. It does come from experience, and I think screwing up from time to time.
Yeah, and it goes, I think, to the point that even in an organization that has an overarching culture, there are subcultures, there's different interactions, like even just the way I deal with, for example, our claims team versus our commercial sales team is so different because of the subcultures that they have. And so it is, to your point, Jen, sort of tailoring how you provide that advice and the social capital, I guess, that you gain from being able to do that, which then, I guess, builds that reputation for yourself.
And the social capital piece is important. We go back there because, you know, we never want to be the department of no, right? We're constantly hearing, you know, in-house legal should never be the department of no. But sometimes there are times where we actually can't strategize an answer. There actually isn't an answer that we can help get there. You know, more often than not, the goal is always, look, as long as you don't go this way, but you can go this way or all the things. And I always joke with my kind of directors, you guys are far too pretty for prison, so my job is to keep you out of it. You know, go this way, not that way. But I think sometimes we just have to say no, and to be able to build those relationships with the business, they need to know that you're speaking their language, you've done the best that you can more often than not to help them execute their goal. And we're not, unlike, you know, lawyers aren't KPI'd by numbers usually, more often than not, unlike the business is. So we can come to it with a bit of a different lens and help them find different ways, and it gives us a chance to really dig into it a little bit more and find different solutions. But then when it is time to say no, they trust you and they go, okay, because we know they genuinely try to help me find the answer. I mean, and certainly for me, sometimes it's just completely ridiculous, the stuff that they want to put on air, or some ridiculous competition that they want to run, or live diving in a shark cage or something ridiculous that the insurers hate. But, you know, more often than not, it's like, we'll help you find the answer.
And that comes from having a reputation built,
yes.
not a brand.
Correct, yeah.
Right? If you've just gone through your career at that particular place focusing on what is your brand, like you're the best lawyer in the world and the most commercial lawyer in the world, and you're on all of these, I don't know, like all over Placid, all over all platforms, etc. That is not actually what's going to help you have that difficult conversation with a stakeholder on a tricky day. What will help is you having cultivated your reputation with those stakeholders so that they trust you, and that they trust you when you say no, it is because it's a genuine no and you're not just being a blocker.
Lazy or
a handbrake.
Yeah, and so I guess switching a little bit in terms of, you know, we've sort of said you align yourself to culture and really sort of build that reputation on a sort of case-by-case basis. But have you ever experienced, I guess, any bias or sort of inherent sort of, you know, red flags in an organization that has stopped that sort of, you know, case-by-case reputational build or alignment to culture?
I mean, I think, fortunately, I haven't really experienced that in my time in-house, but certainly earlier in my career, I was an insolvency litigator, and was back then an inherently male-dominated industry. And I was sort of a young kind of lawyer building a practice and all the things, and I absolutely came up against it. And the way through that, which is certainly something I then continued to deploy through my entire career because it worked, was consistency and competence, you know, and playing the long game, I suppose. I think, fortunately, you know, I've been involved in organisations where there's a really good representation of women, and I think that really helps. Sometimes it's the opposite, where you've got all these women, and sometimes I struggled to have a voice amongst that, which was kind of the opposite of you know, the other way where you sort of don't have one, because maybe it's all men. So that was an interesting dynamic as well, and so, you know, finding your feet among that as well. But I think inherently we maybe will always feel like there's some kind of bias. We might always feel like, oh, is this because I'm a woman, or is it because I'm pregnant, or is it because of whatever? Whether it exists anymore, I'm not sure.
I think it exists. I do think it exists still, and I think it's unfortunate that it does. Just reflecting on my own experience, and it's not just limited to in-house. I mean, gosh, I tick the minority box, I tick the female box, I tick the little, you know, slightly short box. And so it can be, I have found it at different points in time in my career difficult to get the gravitas that I want, and to own the space that I want to own at the table, particularly when you are the only person of, you know, this packaging in the room. And I'm not a screamer, I'm not a table banger, and that is a skill that I've had to learn over time. And I still reflect on certain meetings where I was like, oh, I could have done 10 times better in that meeting to actually just own my space at the table. It's a muscle that I have had to develop over time. In my current role, unfortunately, I am the only female in the executive team of about 10 to 11. So I'm well outnumbered on the gender basis. And I do sometimes find it still a bit of a struggle to be heard and to not have my points taken by someone else in the room and then rehashed in a different way or a longer way. It happens still to this day. It happened last week, but now I'm quite comfortable with just being like, great, yeah, that was exactly what I said 2 minutes ago. I'm glad we're aligned. And I don't do it in an aggressive way. It's just great, we're on the same page. I'm glad you heard my point. And that's kind of my way of saying, yep, thanks, I'm claiming that space back. I'm now very comfortable navigating that, but it took a long time. So I do think it still exists. But I do think that if you are focused, again, going back to the theme of brand reputation, if you go back to thinking, what is the reputation I'm trying to build? How is it that I'm trying to contribute and show up every day? What is it that I'm trying to cultivate every day? That, I think, can be a really helpful guide on how to navigate these situations.
And Ash, sorry, I just wanted to press pause. So we're past the halfway mark. Love to see if anybody has any questions about how to build a strong personal brand. Any questions? There are chocolates on offer. Yeah, no, wait. What? One question, any other questions? All right, if you could introduce yourself as well.
Hi, Simran from the Woolworths legal team. We've talked about building your personal brand and reputation, which I really resonate with. What about rebuilding? So what if you're not necessarily coming to a new organisation, within the same organisation, there's been changes in leadership, people you work with, and you realise you actually need to reset your personal brand or reputation, or you've really screwed up. What's your kind of take on that?
The first thought that comes to mind is like if you're a little kid and you're building blocks and then maybe someone has a tantrum and like knocks them over and you're like, oh. I actually think you just have to build again and pick them up one by one, rinse and repeat. And maybe it'll be a little stronger next time because you're learning differently, you know, the way to go, the paths to avoid to build that strength. Stick with me on this weird analogy, but to continue with the building blocks, that foundational layer is with you forever. That's your brand. the brand of you, your name, your reputation that goes with you through the length of your career, no matter which brand, Woolworths or wherever you may be, working in law, maybe not working in law, however, the path unfolds, who you are is with you forever. So constantly keeping that mindset, keeping that foundation strong, and then how you show up in the different spaces, if you need to reset, rebuild, maybe go from red to blue. That's just the learning and the sets and the reps, the consistency and the showing up. So I wouldn't be too discouraged. I would just go, okay, here we go again. If this is important to me, then I will make the time. I won't find the time. I will make the time. Otherwise, I'll make an excuse.
I think that's good, and I think specifically on the, if you've made a mistake, how do you rebuild it, is address the elephant in the room, talk about the mistake. Own it, talk to the stakeholder, this happened, this is what happened. Not about making excuses, explaining it, recognising the mistake and putting the steps in place moving forward as to why it won't happen again, the guardrails, whatever it might be. I think, all too often it sort of happens and then no one talks about it, and the business is just as guilty of that. They often maybe won't talk to you or deal with you, or they'll talk to someone else and it comes back to you kind of through the channels. And I found, even if it's not mistakes, if it's misunderstandings or an annoyance, for example, with the team, with me or my team, I really try to reach out to the direct instructor and to talk about it, and to say, let me hear you. Tell me what your issues are, I'll tell you what mine are, and then we'll find a middle road together. And I think that also really helps with your reputation. Again, that trust piece as well.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Own it first. And I think to be able to own it quickly is key. And doing that, you need to recognise it's not personal. It's actually not personal at all. Where everyone's going to screw up. Am I allowed to just keep saying that word? Probably not. I think you need to own it first, and then figure out in the room who can be your allies. To have the open conversation with, those are the people who not only will have an open ear to you and be receptive to what you have to say, but has influence to the relevant stakeholders that you want to have influence over. Have the conversations with them directly and workshop with them. And if you can get them on side, they will help you. And in tandem, I would also, exactly as Danielle said, with the relevant stakeholder, get them in a room as well. Talk it out. They're all human. Like, case in point, a couple of months ago, I was hearing on the grapevine grumbles from some of our European sales members of internal processes being too slow and contracts being too long and too difficult, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, well, that doesn't really resonate because I know my team is doing X, Y, and Z, that something else must be going on. So I just called him up. I called up the head of UK and I said, let's have a chat. What's going on? This is what I'm hearing. Tell me what you're experiencing. And then we just worked out a plan, and he wasn't, I'm not going to lie and say he was so happy by the end of the conversation. No, that wasn't the case. But he certainly was much more aligned with me at the end of that chat. And at the same time, I then had a chat with my CEO and said, hey, just so you know, I heard this, had this conversation, this is where we landed. So before you hear of it through the grapevine, this is what's going on. And I think that comes into the EQ part of it as well. Learn the players in the room and what chess pieces you need to move and who you need to be talking to in separate rooms. I think that's quite key.
And I think relevantly, it also may not be a mistake, it may not be an issue, but the business feels like it is. And so getting the clarity around that, and to give you an example, recently, we've got a really big project on the go. It's very complex. We're up to version 13 of the contract, right? That's how complex it is. I took it over from my team at about version 6 because I realised it was outside both their area of expertise, and also the stakeholders were very senior with very different opinions, 2 different departments. The project was straddling both departments, but they both thought it was different things. So I took it over, again, read the room, realised that my team weren't going to make influence here and cut through. And I had a call with the relevant stakeholders and a Teams call, and there was clear frustration from one of them in particular towards me and my team, and about our seemingly lack of understanding, or we're not getting it, or why is this contract so hard? It's just a document. How can it be this hard? And we all know how hard they can be, right? And I read the room. And I went and saw her the next day, and I put time in the diary, and I said, we need to go through this contract together. Here's another version. But I said to her, firstly, I am on the same team as you. We are on the same side. And I want to do it with you, shoulder to shoulder. But your remit is yours, and mine is mine, and I need you to help me understand it. And we're building the contract so we can make it as creative as we want, but I need you to take me through it bit by bit, you know? And I think when I did that, she realised that I was actually trying to help her. I wasn't getting in the way, but it needed that conversation. And I said, tell me what your frustrations are. And she said, I feel like X, Y, Z. And I said, okay. And this is what I'm struggling with. And I'm hoping that through our meeting today, we can work through it together. And we did. And that night, she sent me a Teams message and said, thank you for today. I appreciate the chat. Now, that was at version 11. So we still had 4 more versions to go, but we got there together, you know, and I rebuilt that trust that I think had been lost a little bit, you know, from the start to then.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, don't lose confidence in yourself. So to own it requires confidence. To continue having conversations with the business and getting in a room requires confidence. So don't let that incident, or if it's a change and, you know, restructure or whatever it is, don't let it affect your confidence in your ability to deliver for your business.
Thank you, Simran. You got your chocolate. Sophie's the chocolate fairy floating around. Ash, back to you. You have 10 minutes.
Awesome. I guess just now sort of focusing on, you know, we've talked about sort of building that reputation when we're sort of working with stakeholders in the business. But one of the things that I think is also really integral to sort of the level that we're at is also the reputation of the team that we lead. And so how much of what you do sort of tries to influence that team reputation, which then inherently, I guess, creates a reputation for yourself within the business?
Set them up for success every time. And push them in the spotlight, but be in the background as their safety net every time. Every time. That's always been my motto. Be comfortable that you have your own arena in your space, and putting them in the spotlight isn't going to hurt you, it actually helps you. Right? So please don't claim credit for your team's work. It's always going to backfire. And even if you did 50% of the work, but you know that them getting the spotlight and the acknowledgement publicly is going to help them, do that. Do that. Because if they do a good job, the business cares about outcomes. You look good anyway. Like, that's how I roll.
That sums it up. A rising tide lifts all boats. If they're doing well, everyone is doing well. I think it's an incredible honour to be a leader and to put your hand up and say, actually, yeah, I do want to dedicate a serious amount of my hours to developing someone and to helping them become the best person, the best leader, the best lawyer that they want to be. Not everyone's well suited to that, and they kind of just make their way there over time and maybe seniority. But I think there's this shift in workforces, and what next generation of workers expect is leaders that will actually come to work and say, well, I work for you. You don't work for me. And that's a shift I don't think we've seen before. And if it's not for you to be in that position, you want to stay as that kind of independent contributor, that's perfectly amazing as well. But to be a leader means to come in and say, hey, how can I help you get to, you know, where you are, where you want to be? And if that means stepping back and giving you space to shine, then that's what I need to do. And if you're not comfortable, confident, if your ego doesn't like that, you know, that's a you problem to sort out. And the EQ comes into it, the self-awareness, but leadership is so important, leading by example and not asking your team to do something that you wouldn't do as well.
Or couldn't do.
Couldn't do, yeah.
I think it's also important to back them. You know, I trust you, like we work together so closely. And I say to my team often, you know, you need to build these relationships with the business. I back you. I back your judgment. If you get it wrong, we deal with it at the time. Provided in that moment, with all the information you had, you made a decision. If it turns out to be the wrong one for whatever reason, we pivot and we figure it out at the time. But when you make the call, imagine I'm sitting beside you. I'm there, but you need to make it, and you need to have these decisions with the business, and you need to come to a position and put skin in the game. And then when there's a mistake, and there inevitably will be, because at the end of the day, they don't bring 20 years experience, they might bring 5, so they can't see the broader piece that a senior practitioner might, then it's how we pivot with the business that they don't lose face and that the team doesn't lose face, right? So not lying for a second, but just trying to work through a mistake, never obviously throwing them under the bus, or also if it is inherently 100%, look, this was an error, then we say, look, this was a misstep, and this is what we do to fix it, step in and fix it and move forward and, you know, workshop with them what happened, but they always know that you back them. And I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think hand in hand with that is get out of the way. You know, if you have a call set up and you know that if you join that call as well, the stakeholders will turn to you and they will naturally just ask you the questions, or you will naturally not be able to help yourself and just like jump in and start talking, right? So just don't join the call. Don't join the call, but prep your team member beforehand so you set them up for success. And you can even walk through, like, these are the scenarios, these are the objectives, let's try and steer for this outcome. Anything happens, ping me and I can dial in, or we can workshop it after. But sometimes just getting out of the way is really good.
And a little bit of throwing in the deep end as well. I think, you know, it's a method it's a leadership method, not everyone likes it, and people sometimes don't like it happening to them. But being thrown in the deep end's a great thing. I don't know about you guys, but I've spent more time in the deep end than the shallow, you know, and it's gotten me through my career. So that's not a bad thing either, with sufficient kind of buoys around the side for them to grab onto.
Yeah, I love it. And it means the hit rate or fail rate may be a little bit mixed, but that's all right. That's all right. It's I would trust my judgment that I would not put them in a room by themselves for something where if it failed, it was catastrophic.
Or with the CEO or
yeah,
something.
I mean, that's on me if I did that. That's just terrible judgment. But otherwise, if things don't go to plan, so what? It's always fixable. It is actually always very fixable. I think your team knowing that you care about their development in a way that you would push them forward at the risk of losing control and at the risk of an outcome that may be a bit suboptimal, I think that actually gives them so much confidence.
I think also it's quite liberating as a leader to have your team go out and do that, because then it means that you have the time to think strategically for the benefit of your team. And so you're not so much in the detail all the time, but you're actually, you know, creating those opportunities for them, which ultimately then builds that whole team reputation piece.
It's also, sorry to cut you off, it's also about presence as well.
Yes.
So them getting a presence in the business, and the easiest way to do that is like trainings or whatever, you know, a training seminar, even if it just starts with Teams, a Teams online seminar, get their face out there, get them out there, get them used to talking to people, you know, building blocks, to use your words.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I guess, you know, that's, I guess, a component of mentorship that you provide to your team. In building your reputation, have you relied on mentors yourself to sort of create that for you? No?
Yes, every day. Yeah, absolutely. Constantly looking to people that are doing something that I want to do. I have a desire to do a thing. I'm going to look out and to see who is doing that well, who's doing that the way I want to do it, and then asking them for some of their time, for a specific answer to a question, however it might come to be, and then paying that forward as well. As much as we've been just the most wonderful, so much generosity and collegiality in the profession, for all its faults and weird idiosyncrasies, I do think that a lot of us do want to help next generation coming through. I've benefited from that, and I feel like it's incumbent upon me to pay that forward. I think we all feel that to some degree. Mentors are incredible in every way, and I think for the, you know, to the topic of being seen, being visible, putting yourself out there and actually, you know, asking someone cold in the DMs on LinkedIn for a moment of their time because you respect their work or you respect something that they do, that also kind of flexes that muscle of feeling discomfort, putting yourself out there, growing your confidence, growing your network, growing your reputation. It doesn't always have to be big and flashy, you know, some kind of post or TikTok or something. It can be quiet and strategic and more balanced and in line with maybe how you want to show up. But yeah, go for it. Ask. Always look around at people that are doing things well.
I sort of think the opposite as well, to flip that and go, I have mentors in the sense of I take things from people that I don't like and I go, I don't ever want to be that lawyer or that person or that manager, you know. And that's actually really anchored me a lot in my career, and I've gone, I don't like this trait in this, usually someone who's more senior to you and you've worked for them, and I never want to be that. So what do I need to do to make sure when I'm in a similar position where there's anxieties and pressure and KPIs and complexity, that I don't default to that behaviour, because right now that's all I'm kind of seeing. And that's been a really big thing for me as well. So I mentor I take that from mentors in that way as well. I go, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that particular type of in-house lawyer. I don't want to be that particular type of leader.
I love that. It reminds me of me talking to my 5-year-old at dinner time. Put that in the no thank you corner. Don't throw it, just put it in the no thank you corner. Good one. But I think the flip side is also true. I find like professional mentorships really awkward, frankly.
And artificial.
Yeah, like they tend to feel really forced. You set up for this first coffee date or whatever it is, and you kind of both look at each other going, oh, what do I say? I guess I need to say something gratuitous and flattering so that they're receptive to me and want to see me again. Like, it's really quite awkward. Sometimes it works. I've had really mixed results with it. And so I think, reflecting back, I have gotten nuggets from different people who are not official mentors to me, and they may not be someone I catch up with on a regular basis in the capacity as a mentor to me, but they are certainly people that I deeply, deeply respect because they're experts at their own craft, be it one of the directors, be it one of the other senior execs in the team, and I will have a chat to them just in the day-to-day of what we're doing, and I mentally clock, I loved how this person handled this situation. I'm going to put this in the thank you corner. And
this in the no thank you
corner.
Yeah,
and this in the no thank you corner. And that's how then I start to build a mental roadmap for myself for this is how I want to cultivate my reputation. Because I think it's highly unlikely, even in the best mentor that you have, that you will find someone who ticks every single box that you want. Which aligns with your own values and which really resonates with you. So I think kind of picking and choosing is really helpful. And to be able to do that though, you need to have the EQ to be able to know who in the room you can actually start to reach out to and cultivate relationships with as well.
And Frankenstein, the ideal mentor.
Yeah.
Like pieces together, yeah.
I think that's all we have time for, but thank you very much, Mel, Jen, and Danielle, for your time.
Yes, big round of applause, please, for Ash, Mel, Jen, Danielle. That was fantastic. If you have any questions about how to build a strong personal brand for our panelists, they'll still be around, so do catch them. Thank you so much. So, yeah, if you just go out to the registration desk, they'll show you, but you can either take the lift down or you can take the stairs down. All right, so right here in this Ninja Arena, right now is going to be a panel on how to implement solutions for small legal teams, and that's presented by our friends at Law Squared. And then downstairs in the workshop space, or the secret room, we've got a fantastic workshop on juggling life and the law. So if you've ever faced a situation where you've been trying to juggle life and the law, head downstairs to the secret room. And I should say that there's a popcorn cart outside the secret room. So if you like popcorn, that's where you need to go. There is no popcorn cart on this floor. So you have to visit the secret room for popcorn. Thanks. All right, everyone, please do take a seat. How to implement solutions for small legal teams right here, starting in a minute. Take a seat, please. How to implement solutions for small legal teams. A lot of the principles will apply to big legal teams as well, I'm sure, so do join us. And the workshop downstairs is on juggling life and the law. Very, very interactive, very hot topic. So do head downstairs to level 1. The secret room is waiting for you. All right, team, have a seat, have a seat. We're kicking off now. There's a coffee break right after this, so you can chat then. All right, team, have a seat, please. And then we've got a video to play from our friends at Law Squared, so let's watch that now as well.
Flying by the seat of your pants? Looking for answers in all the wrong places. Introducing Cubed by Law Squared, the fixed cost, easy to integrate legal matter management solution that streamlines and automates legal workflows, offers total visibility, automates admin, and improves productivity for your team. All seamlessly integrated through Microsoft 365, giving you more time to do what you do best. Cubed by Law Squared, for what matters.
All right, so that's Cubed by Law Squared. How many of you have heard of Law Squared before? Okay, if you haven't, they have a fantastic display table in the coffee area as well. They've just launched a legal tech offering called Cubed, which is what that video was about. And Nam, who's our moderator for the next session, he's the main brainchild behind Cubed. So if you have any questions about legal tech or Cubed or Law Squared, he's the man to find. All right, so without further ado, let's kick off the next session on how to implement solutions for small legal teams. Our moderator is Nam Trong, Digital and Innovation Lead at Law Squared. Our panelists are Janani Lawson, Senior Legal Counsel and Assistant Company Secretary at Pepper Money. Jessica Carroll, Senior Legal Counsel at Container Exchange and Principal of TBL Legal Solutions. And then we have Philippa Bergen-Fisher, General Counsel for Zimmerman. Big round of applause, please, for our speakers. Keep the applause going, come on. How to implement solutions for small legal teams. Excellent. So everybody who's standing in the back and who would like a chair, there are some chairs now at the front because the folks have gone to the workshop. But do join us, have a seat. And again, if you've just joined us, 40 minutes, at the 20-minute mark, I'll press pause and we ask for questions. But without further ado, Nam, over to you.
Got to turn it on. Yeah, we should do like a competition of those intros next year. We were talking about doing like the single ladies dance, like heading up here. That would be awesome. Hello ninjas, welcome to our session today. Our session is going to be on how to implement legal solutions or solutions for small legal teams. My name is Nam Trung. I'm the head of product for Cubed by Law Squared, a matter management contract repository platform on Microsoft 365. But enough about me today. I am joined by a very lovely group of panelists. We've got Jess, Janani, and Philippa, and we're going to talk about implementing solutions for small legal teams. Now, I think, you know, whether you're a small or a large legal team, you're going to have problems that relate to these three panelists today. And I'm very excited to take you through sort of their wins, learns, and failures even, so that we can, share our insights with you. All right. What I might do is I might pass along to each of the panelists. If you can do a really quick round of introductions. What is your name? What is your role? And what is the type of work that your company does?
Thanks, Nam. My name is Jessica Carroll, and I'm the Senior Legal Counsel at Container Exchange, which is the beverage container refund scheme in Queensland. And I'm also the principal of TBL Legal Solutions, which is my new law firm that I've only just recently launched, which provides fractional legal services, or effectively I'm your external in-house lawyer that can implement the solutions for small business teams that we're going to be talking about today.
Great, thanks Jess. Hi everyone, I'm Janani. I'm a Senior Legal Counsel and Assistant Company Secretary at Pepper Money. We're an ASX listed non-bank lender. Until I started working there, I didn't know what a non-bank lender was. Essentially, we're not an ADI, so we don't take deposits, but we do home loans, car loans, any other type of loans, that kind of thing.
All right, and my name's Philippa Bergen-Fisher. I work at an Australian business some of you will have heard of called Zimmerman. I am modelling the clothes today. It's not all florals. I guess Zimmerman, I will just say a little bit about it and about our legal team, just to contextualise everything else that we'll talk about. So when I started about 5 years ago, I was the only lawyer at Zimmerman, and I was their first lawyer, and I was part-time. Whereas now, kind of fast forward 5 years, we have 6 lawyers and 3 paralegals, as well as different providers in different jurisdictions. And although we're an Australian-based business, most of our work now is overseas. So the majority of the work is Europe, the Americas, Middle East, China and Southeast Asia. We still do a bit in Australia, but the bulk of it is not.
And if you check underneath your seats, there's a special gift from Zimmerman. If only. Now we're going to set the scene for you because, you know, small legal teams, what are the kind of challenges they are facing? So maybe Jess, I'll ask this question to you. If you can explain to the audience, yeah, what kind of problems do small legal teams face?
Sure. I've had the privilege of working in a number of small in-house legal teams, and definitely one of the main challenges that are faced in a lot, but not necessarily all, is headcount. You're a small legal team. There might only be one of you, or there might only be 3 of you, and you're small, but you're required to be mighty, in the sense that you are required to do, you know, everything from employment law to workplace health and safety to privacy, commercial, corporate. You might even have some quasi-legal functions such as governance and risk and compliance. You're also expected to be ahead of the game, providing that strategic legal advice, which means you're exceptionally busy. And you possibly also have very tight budget constraints as well, meaning you don't have access to big legal tech and maybe other services that would maybe help your legal team be more efficient. And because of that, the team can often become quite reactive as opposed to proactive. There's no time to necessarily pause and take a moment to think about what you could be doing better or more efficiently to relieve some of the load on your team.
Yeah. And look, I mean, legal teams, small legal teams of that size often have to be scrappy. They have to be creative to find solutions. So really curious to hear about some of those solutions. Let's share that with the audience. If you can share what was one win or one great solution that you implemented in your legal team. If you could do it again, what was the advice that you would give to the audience today? Okay. Anyone can jump in.
All right, I'll start. Because it is something I'm proud of, and I don't know whether it will be relevant to all other businesses, but hear me out, because there might be a moral in the story. And it's this. So Zimmerman is a creative business, so intellectual property is really important, and protecting the brand is really important. For who knows what reason, it's a brand that counterfeiters and copiers love. So they're quite sophisticated in their activities around counterfeiting. And in fact, that was the primary reason why Zimmerman initially thought, gosh, we need a lawyer. So having gone into the business and kind of diagnosed the problem, the solution that we implemented which was tailored to the specific problem that this business had, was to do a lot of that enforcement work ourselves, which was different to the way that most businesses do it, because most businesses would outsource that work to experts. But we knew our product, we were passionate about it, and the solution was to employ what we kind of call, our brilliant army of paralegals, who all had different backgrounds and different skill sets. Currently we have 3, but in the past we've had up to 6. And to have them working on, with all of their tenacity and creative powers, working on brand enforcement. So part of that, yes, it's kind of online takedowns, building relationships with platforms, but then also this, I just find it very inspiring, but the investigative work that this team is able to do is unbelievable. One girl spent 2 years on this investigation. Alibaba saw the work that she'd done, said, this is like the best thing anyone's ever given us. Can we work with you in China on kind of on the ground enforcement against this counterfeiter? And she was doing things like, like looking at pictures online, zooming in on windows to try to pinpoint the location, comparing it to maps, in China. And it was just like unbelievable. So that has been a really successful solution for us, to the point where a lot of platforms, TikTok and Shopee and others, have come to us and asked to work with us. And, we're invited onto the board of the International Anti-Counterfeiting Coalition. So yes, that's something specific to Zimmerman, but I think the moral is kind of really tailoring our services to the particular needs of the business, which might be different in each case. So for us, that's what it was.
Yeah, there's a really good quote in management, which is, never outsource your thinking, never outsource your strategy, right? And I love how you've sort of picked up on, well, what is unique about Zimmerman? What's sort of core to delivering our business strategy? And not only are you leaning into that, but, you're building out your team's resources, you're building out your IP, you're building out the knowledge that's going to continue to serve Zimmerman to come there. Yeah, awesome job. Is there any other solutions anyone want to share?
One of the things that Jess raised was the doing more with less, like the cost constraints of a small legal team. So I've got a solution that we implemented that's free and worked really well. We were noticing in our small legal team of 4 that we would be engaged quite late when an issue arose, or when our mortgages team wanted to launch a new product. They wanted to launch SMSF. They would come to us months after it was all spoken about, all scoped out. It's great. They've got the marketing ready to go, and they're like, we need the contracts. Well, there might be some problems with that, but yeah. So something that we've implemented for our small team is to physically be there with the teams. So the legal team used to sit together, away from everyone else, because everything we did was confidential and no one can know what we're doing, that kind of thing. So now our team, a couple of times a week, sits with different teams on different levels, whether that could be IT, whether that's our asset finance business, our novated leasing business, even with our customer call centre, where they're on the phones and we'll sit with them. You tend not to get as much done because you're constantly hearing what they're saying, but it helped us identify issues sooner. But also, just by the teams seeing us physically there, it meant they engaged us sooner. So, just this week, one of the teams said, hey, do you want to come grab a coffee with the team? And they were speaking about what they're looking to do over the next couple of months, and now we know, so we can get ahead of those products or those initiatives. So a free solution, go sit with the teams.
Yeah, great. Put your hand up if you've ever been engaged way too late as a legal team, right? It's due tomorrow. Now you have everyone in the crowd that, relates to the same problem. And you've got Janani here to answer any questions that you might have on that case as well. Jess, anything from you?
I think, on the back of that, that's where legal gets the reputation of being the business of no, right? Because it's not involved at the start. It can't steer the ship in terms of the project to make sure that when it does get to the back end and legal's drafting that contract, that, all the ducks are in a row and ready for that contract to be signed. So, that business partnering piece that you're talking about is so important, I think, with small legal teams. Time might be a factor, but I think if you can get in front of all the different teams, departments that you have in your business and let them know that you're there and that you're available to come to their meetings when they're developing a project, and let them know how it will actually impact the end and how it will take you away from actually being the business of no to the business of yes, but this is how. In terms of solutions that I have implemented, one of the biggest wins that I've implemented in my time at COEX has definitely been templates and playbooks, and educating the business on your templates and your playbooks. When I started at COEX, we were entering into services agreements with suppliers on third-party paper the majority of the time, and we didn't have a settled master services agreement or services agreement for that matter. And I was also finding myself in a position where I'm the maternity leave cover for the legal services manager, and she's gone, and I didn't have her brain and her knowledge to be able to, I guess, understand the business's risk strategies and be able to adopt them into a template. So I started from the start. I went back through a couple of contracts that had been negotiated. I started putting together a playbook of contracting strategies. I then went through them with the team to make sure that we were all on the same page as to what the contracting strategies are in respect of the different clauses and risks that we often see in services agreements. We then turned that into a contracting strategies chart for the executive leadership team so they could then sign off on it. And using that, once it was signed off, we prepared the master services agreement and we educated the business on what was in there and why. They are now using that template quite a lot. The number of third-party paper that we are reviewing now has significantly reduced. And the teams that are doing the communication and the negotiation actually understand what the positions are and where maybe it could flex in some circumstances, which is making it a lot easier for us. So that has definitely been a very big legal solution win. No tech involved.
Yeah. And look, I mean, oftentimes with all what all the vendors will tell you is buying a piece of technology is going to be the answer to all your problems, right? And what I'm loving about this panel right now is there's no technology, everything's free. Again, these small legal teams need to be lean, they need to be scrappy, right? Who doesn't love a cost-effective solution? We spoke earlier actually around another sort of non-tech solution, and that was around sort of team composition, team structure, and sort of hiring. Does anyone want to make a comment to the audience about your thinking, your thoughts on that part?
I had some thoughts on this. And anyone who's from a big legal team will probably consider this controversial. But my thought was, I think in a legal team that's small, the hiring decisions are even more critical than in a big team. And the reason I said that is because I think everybody in that team is going to be interfacing with the business, so they have to have good relationship building skills, they have to be able to, instill trust in the people they're working with. They need to be adaptable because, as we were saying earlier, we're probably going to be covering areas that we're not necessarily familiar with. Certainly at Zimmerman, for example, we have an employment law specialist lawyer and her background was in Australia, but now she has to upskill and learn on employment law in Spain, Italy, blah, 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 like all around the world. So I think, yes, you need to be smart and you need to have the legal background, but I think being able to upskill reliably and quickly on new legal areas, to communicate clearly, to make sure that you fit the team culture and the business culture. There's really nowhere to hide when you're in a small team. Everyone's going to see you. So I thought, the hiring decisions are really critical.
Yeah. And I mean, earlier we all caught up for coffee, as you can obviously tell. But earlier we spoke about, there's sometimes a juxtaposition between, okay, well, as a small legal team, we need to do a bit of everything, right? We need to be specialists at everything. But sometimes when there's a disparity between sort of, the seniors and the juniors, that information gets lost. And we also spoke about a solution that was implemented, Janani, around how do we bridge that gap, right? How do we knowledge share across the team? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So this was at so I used to work at ASIC, large government organisation, thousands of employees, quite a small legal team for the general advice component. I'm not talking about the litigation side, but the general advice component. And the legal team for a long time was comprised of special counsel and very senior lawyers who were close to retirement, and someone realised, the whole team is going to retire in the next 5 years. We better start getting some juniors in so that there's that succession planning for that team. But the challenge we came to, that was, I was one of the juniors who was hired as part of that team, was to stop senior leaders in the business contacting the senior leaders in the team directly, seeking legal advice. And there was no way for the juniors in the team to shadow that work, to be a part of it, to take any kind of ownership. So one of the solutions that was implemented was a team mailbox. Imagine asking the commissioners at ASIC to use a team mailbox and not call the lawyer they've been calling for the last 5 years or something. You can imagine the pushback we got there. It worked in the end, and I think the two takeaways I got from why it worked was getting the senior leadership in the team on board and getting the senior leadership within the organisation on board. No easy task, but until you get your allies, you're not going to be able to implement a solution. So see who it impacts the most and get them on board. The second component would be consistency. If you implement a change, it's done, there's a, policy, a procedure, you've done training, and you walk away, people might do it for a week or two or a month or two, and then they'll stop. They'll go back to old habits. So it's trying to drive that consistency for as long as it takes to implement that change. So I think that would be my two takeaways on implementing a solution. Get your allies on board and keep going, have that consistency until it's implemented.
Can you tell me how that conversation went with the ASIC commissioner?
Not well, no, not well. I think it was, it took one of those senior lawyers actually retiring early and one of the commissioners trying to call them and then go, oh wait, that person's left the building, to then go, okay, we've got a problem here.
But when that problem was there, you had a process in place, you had a fallback mechanism, so they could still get their legal support, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. It was just that, it was that building trust. I'm sure everyone's seen that. Like when someone new joins a small legal team, the business doesn't quite trust them just yet, so it's building that trust and building that capability within the team for new hires.
Now, I'm sorry, just pressing pause. We're just about at the halfway mark. Any questions from amazing audience on how to implement solutions for small legal teams? Could be tech related, could be non-tech related. There's one question. Any other hands? Okay, one question. Sophie, if you've got a mic, you can do that, but let's do this one. If you could introduce yourself as well, please.
Hello, I am Mariam Matty. I am a new legal counsel at Essilor Luxottica. I've actually just moved over from New Zealand. So my question is, how are small legal teams using AI and other forms of artificial intelligence to speed up their review of contracts? And if you're using AI for other things. Thank you.
Carefully, very carefully. I love ChatGPT. I'm a big tech nerd, by the way. I do implement tech solutions all the time. But ChatGPT is a real hero for me. He or she or it is making my life a lot easier. You've obviously got to be very careful though with the information that you're putting in to ChatGPT and the settings, because it could be training off of the information that you're putting in. It's not necessarily a secure AI platform, and there are a few others. I think Copilot's meant to be a little bit more secure, but what I do is that I use it a lot to formulate my views or to help me with ideas along something. It's not really doing my job for me, but it's kind of that person to kind of powwow with, and to develop something that might be good into something that is great. But yeah, definitely not putting, confidential contracts into ChatGPT, although that would be fabulous. But there is a lot of tech out there. We're actually in the process of adopting Spellbook, which is a contract review software, and it's going to save a significant amount of time. The number of contracts that we review, I think it was like 240 contracts the legal team, our legal team of 4 had touched over the last 12 months. And you know, what this, not just Spellbook, that's just the one that we're looking at, but what contract review software can do is that in a secure environment, which is the key, it can utilise your playbook, which I'm sure we all have, and you pop your playbook into the software. It then marks up third-party paper with what the deviations are from your playbook, and it can actually track changes, do redlining for you, also put in comments for the other side, because you know we don't send red lines to the other party without comments, do we? And then can actually even produce you a table of the deviations from your playbook, which is actually a recent adoption for Spellbook. I'm not sure about the others, but they're definitely 2 ways that AI can significantly assist small legal teams, in my opinion.
Anyone else?
I agree with Jess that you have to use it carefully, but our organisation uses Copilot and I love it. Like I use it almost every day. I think I start typing my emails in Copilot and then just say refine or clean this up, and it'll pick up any grammar or spelling, that kind of thing. But I did have a funny story about using Copilot. I was using it yesterday to summarise meeting notes that I had to send out, some minutes of a meeting. And I said, please, this is my problem. My husband says, why do you say please to the AI? It's just, so I said, please summarise these meeting notes, and it did. And I thought, no, that's too much. I need them longer. So I said, make these longer. And I was reading through it, and it said, so-and-so said this and did this. They didn't say that or do that. So just be careful that depending on your instructions, it can sometimes make things up. So it's not quite there yet. It's helpful, but you still have to check it.
They're the hallucinations, right? Yeah, so AI is definitely not taking over our jobs just yet. It definitely still requires legal training to be able to use it properly and ensure that the output is legally correct.
We're always looking at different technology solutions, trying to trial the latest thing. I'm not really a fan of AI, I have to say, at this point. I can see that it does have potential.
I can convert you.
Really? I don't know. So for example, meeting notes, if I think about that, to me, that's probably, for me, the way I work, that's generating more work, because I would have done my action items, my 10 points, allocations as we're talking. It's done. I send it out at the end. To have longer meeting notes that I put into something in the site, like to me, that's more work. And I would prefer to be more efficient in the way that I work, like on my own, but also with people and how we use email and how we use meetings and those sorts of things. That's just my view. I'm sure that at some point I will be converted, but as you both said, I've also found I do try to use it a lot, sometimes to check, you know, if I've brainstormed everything and I think, oh, maybe I'll just use it as a safety net, but I've found it's wrong a lot of the time, so I don't have confidence in it yet.
I've got 2 real-life use cases for ChatGPT that I've used in the last week. So we are in the process of potentially overhauling some of our flagship contracts, and part of that I'm hoping will be a legal design project. And I had to write a business case for the executive on what the benefits of legal design would be for this specific contract and its audience, its intended audience, which is, you know, the depots, the container refund depots, where you go and deliver your containers for your 10-cent refund. And ChatGPT was great at that. Not a lot of sensitive information, you know, involved in that, and it was able to bulk it out for me and come up with some really good examples of, you know, why it would be beneficial. And was able to also frame it in a way that I thought would be really approachable for the executive as well. And then the other one was privacy. So if anybody, most people should be aware that it's Privacy Awareness Week this week. And so I'm doing a Privacy 101 session tomorrow, which I may or may not be prepared for. And so I got it to help me with my slides. It came up with the content for all of the slides. I tweaked it. I told it what I wanted and I reordered it and made it mine. I popped in a couple of cat memes because I love including them in my training sessions just for a bit of a laugh. But a great and efficient use of AI to make what could otherwise be a very long, time-consuming task into something not so.
Thank you. We have one question, I believe, at that end of the room. Do you have a microphone?
Hi, I'm Sylvia Hands. I'm on secondment through Aspen Legal at Xero Limited, which is the accounting software company. One question I had, because I've sort of been through a lot of what you said, so a lot of what you said really did resonate, is how do you then sort of, once you've implemented your solution, I guess, measure the success and then communicate that back to, your ASIC commissioner or whoever and say, this reduced our SLA time by this, or this allowed us to triage things so quick and we, de-scoped 20% of the work, so it didn't even need legal review, that kind of data and communication back.
In terms of the success at ASIC, I think that's just once all three of those senior lawyers retired, the fact that, the place didn't fall over. But in terms of successes of implementing legal solutions, sometimes you can communicate the success of legal solutions, but sometimes you may not be able to, because legal and compliance, those functions, it's not really what you achieved, but what you may have prevented from going wrong. So I think there's two aspects of it. There could be that, it's improved SLAs, it's improved response times, but at the same time it could be it's prevented this risk of lack of succession planning, it's prevented this risk of the legal team getting involved too late in the piece, that kind of thing. So I would say the success can be measured in two ways.
Yeah, I don't think measurement of success is always easy, particularly when you're talking about time. How do you measure time in an in-house legal department? We don't like billable hours, do we? That's actually one of my fails. Tried to track time in my last work, not to monitor, just to be able to measure. Didn't go down very well with the legal team. They thought they were being spied upon. But I think it just comes from real life, from living it, and being able to report back up, what your experiences are, and hopefully, like with a legal tech solution like Spellbook or any contract review software, the amount of time you're spending on contract reviews should be lessened. So then there's more time opened up for doing more strategic legal work, and that will be very evident to the team, and then you'd report that back up.
And I would just add, do you need to report on that? Like, is that something that whoever you report to even cares about? If I said to our CEO, we're reviewing contracts more quickly now, he would say, why are you telling me that? Like, that's not relevant to him. So if I'm reporting to him, I will try to think about, like, what are his KPIs? What does he care about? There's a level of trust. So if I've implemented a solution, he's going to trust that it's working. And so I would only report on something, an outcome, if it was directly relevant. So let's say it was a software that led to more custom seizures or something. I mean, I'm making that up. He might care about that. We might have some good stories about that. But if it was just we're reviewing property contracts more quickly, that's not the output he cares about. So.
Yeah, we've implemented a lot of legal tech solutions and just general legal process and strategy solutions for small teams. And there is a mix of know your audience, right? Because sometimes the success measures for the legal team are very, very different to the success measures of the CFO or the CEO or the general managers, right? And you need to be telling the story that, how do I solve the problem that keeps the CEO up at night? Not how do I solve my problems, right? And that's critical both from when you're reporting on success, but also when you're getting buy-in to the solution as well. How do you convince the ASIC commissioner to do what you want to do to make your job easier as the lawyers, right? Well, actually, there needs to be a bit of give and take there. We also talk about there's a difference between having those quantitative measures and those sort of numbers-based KPIs reporting. Where you have the numbers, you can just curate and build a story around that. Like, hey, we review 250 contracts a year, right? If this tool saves us 10 minutes per contract, well, you can do the maths pretty quickly and you can you measure the outcome and the success of that. When you don't have that, you can report on qualitative KPIs as well around, well, this is a problem that is keeping me up at night. I've got these 3 partners, they're about to retire, we don't have a succession plan, all right? And it's going to be a yes or no question whether this project is successful. Does it solve for that succession plan problem or not?
Thanks, Nam. Yeah, no, back to you. In fact, Nam, obviously you haven't been sleeping a lot lately because you've just launched Cubed. Could you tell us just briefly what Cubed is so that people can kind of understand what you're going through? Yeah,
I guess. We are here all day, by the way, so we're in that room in a booth, so if you want to see a demo of Cubed, I'm very happy to share that. But Cubed is a matter management and a contracts repository solution, right? What it provides you is the visibility of all of the legal work that's happening across the legal team. All emails or correspondence about a legal matter, it's automatically filed into the matter. So if there's a succession planning issue or someone, I call it wins the lottery. So if someone wins the lottery, says, see you later, I'm not joining the team anymore, you have visibility of what they were working on, where they were up to, what key risks they were, what status they were up to, and you can just pick that up on the very next day. So it's got visibility of both that for matters as well as contracts, and it is built completely in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So that means all of the data, all of the documents stay inside of your Microsoft 365 environment. We call it the solutions that IT teams love because they don't have to do any additional security reviews, privacy, impact assessments, all that's covered because it's already inside of your system. So if you want to see the solution, if you're interested in matter management or contracts, come chat to us. We're in that booth in the break room there. Yeah.
But yeah, no, fantastic. So 7 minutes left. Now I'm back to you.
Yeah, great. I think we've got probably time for a couple more questions. So we're going to flip the coin now and start with a hard question. But we talked about fails, right? What is one fail that you've had when implementing a solution? And what is a lesson that you can share with the audience that if I were to go back, I would, change this or do this? Any takers?
I alluded to it before, but an epic fail of mine was trying to track time in an in-house legal team. Clearly didn't read the room or think about who my intended audience was, or I guess effectively implement change management for a new approach. So I don't want to take up too much time with it, but definitely what I came away with was, that you don't create solutions in a silo, you create them with your team, and you have to bring your team on the journey with you so that they understand its purpose, but that they're also, willing, I suppose, to go along that journey with you. Because if you don't do that, they're going to be hesitant, reluctant, and it potentially won't be an effective solution.
And just adding to that before we go on to the next, but your team sometimes is not just your legal team. It's, we spoke about business partnering, right? How can we pitch what we're going to do to, the sales teams, to the marketing teams, to the executive teams, so that we're solving their problems as well as ours? Any other fails?
I mean, I've got a couple. They're not that exciting, but I think the lesson we learned was if you're going to fail, at least it's good to do it quickly. Like, of course, we're going to have some failures. So we had one, I like to have diversity in the team because I've experienced that actually makes us stronger, and, people have these different skill sets. And I did hire someone who was quite different to everyone else and culturally different and just completely different background. And anyway, that was a massive flop because, apart from coming into work late and all these other things, she was trying to bribe people for information. I was just like, oh my God. So anyway, we realised quickly that was not a fit. And then we had another fail because we're often trialling kind of different technologies. Again, I don't think I'd do anything differently, but it was a technology that had great promise and probably one day will be amazing, but it just wasn't there yet. And so we spent a year kind of trialling the product, and we did pay for it, and we didn't get that much out of it. So after 12 months, we just exited.
Just to probe you on that, just on the topic of failing fast, what is going through your head, Philippa? How do you draw the line in the sand and say, yeah, we need to cut this off now? Or, what do you wait for? What are some...
I mean, obviously, the bribery attempt, that was that was pretty obvious. Decision made. But then with technology, I think it's a cost question. Like, it's just that standard cost benefit. We weren't spending that much money on it, so we could afford to wait and see. If we were paying more, probably we would have exited after 6 months.
Janani?
I can't think of any obvious fails. That's not that I haven't failed before, it's just that I'm failing to think of them. Probably something that I tried to implement in my current workplace were cheat sheets. Again, somewhat free solution. For example, our team was always getting asked, can I sign this? Can I sign this? Who can sign this? Because we have multiple entities within the same organisation umbrella, and multiple power of attorneys, like documents set up. So something that the team was constantly asking was, can I sign this? So I came up with a cheat sheet of who can sign what for what organisation. It was great, all done, put on the intranet, all set up, but no one used it. Like, people still pinged me on Teams or called me and said, hey, can I sign this? Like, but I've got a cheat sheet. They're like, no, just tell me. Like, it'll take you 2 seconds. Why can't you just tell me? So that, I would say, is a fail. It took me, a couple of hours to put together this nice page. It's on the intranet, but no one's using it. So I haven't come up with a solution to that yet, because the question is maybe the thing is the question is simple. It's not a complicated legal question, so they don't understand why I can't just say yes or no to their Teams message. But when you get multiple Teams messages, when you're trying to write an email and you've got 10 Teams messages at the same time, not the same question, but questions like this, the really easy ones that people should be able to self-serve if they've got the resource. So I haven't found a solution to how to implement these cheat sheets yet, but we'll get there.
One day. All right, I've only got a couple of more minutes left, so what we're going to do is really quick rapid fire round to each of our panelists. If someone was going to step into your role tomorrow, it might be someone in this audience, or it might even be yourself in 3 years' time. What would your words of wisdom to them be?
My words of wisdom would be pluck the low-hanging fruit first. Don't jump straight into big tech solutions or things that are going to change the world. There are so many quick wins that are available for you to, make the legal team more efficient in small ways. And you can do them over time. And then once you've plucked those, then you can start thinking about the big tech. Or maybe at some point along the road, a window will open for big tech solutions, and you should take it if it does come. And my other recommendation would be to upskill. Upskill yourself. Make sure you're continuously learning. The world of tech is changing so rapidly, and legal operations is a growing space. And if you want to implement efficiency solutions for legal teams, then you really should be trying to upskill yourself quite regularly. And there are some really great resources out there. I'm conscious of time. And I have written them down because some of them have acronyms, and I didn't think I'd be able to remember what the acronym stood for. So it's my little scribble. So I would highly recommend you follow the Legal Tech and Innovation Community, LTIC, which is a subcommittee from with the Association of Corporate Counsel. That's Karen Lee that leads that one. Fiona McClay, follow her, she was here today. She has a book called The Tech-Enabled Lawyer, which is great and has lots of solutions for using the low-hanging fruit, which is like maybe tech that you already have, such as your Microsoft Suite or your Google Suite. Contract Nerds, if anybody's not following Contract Nerds, please do on LinkedIn. Contract negotiations, redlining, playbooks, you'll get so much use out of that. Verity White, Checklist Legal. She's got a new podcast called Legal Lightbulbs, which is for solutions for small legal teams. So if this topic is right up your alley, she would be great. And then also CLOC, the Corporate Legal Operations Consortium. I'm getting lots of woos on this side. I'll put them on my LinkedIn in case you didn't get it. I see that we're out of time and I'm so sorry. I also want to give a shout out to my own newsletter, which is called The Low Hanging Fruit. So follow me, Jessica Carroll, on LinkedIn, and you'll see my newsletter, which goes through lots of low hanging fruit that you can pluck before you start thinking about the big stuff.
Thanks, Jess. Really quickly, Janani and Philippa.
It's okay. No. 2 minutes more.
2 minutes.
Take your time. Yeah.
All right.
So I would say to someone coming into my role, I'd have 2 pieces of advice. Firstly, I would say never get comfortable. Expect that every 3 to 6 months you'll be doing a different job. So, always be looking for, ways that we can improve things or technology. Just, never get comfortable. And then the second thing would be, and I sound like a dinosaur because we've been talking a lot about tech, but I think relationships have been really key in this role. So industry relationships, particularly through the International Anti-Counterfeiting Coalition, like getting advice from all these, other big brands who've been there before has been critical. Relationships within the business have been critical to understand our priorities and what people's needs are. So those are my 2 pieces of advice.
Thank you.
I would have to agree with Philippa with building relationships. My advice, if someone stepped into my role at Pepper Money, would be to build those relationships, to be curious, to go get to know the different parts of the business and the different products. You can't be an in-house legal counsel without knowing the business and the people and the key drivers behind what they do.
I think on the back of that, one of the questions was allies that we didn't get to talk about. And so, who are your biggest allies? And look around the business. I mean, obviously, the person that pulls the strings is obviously the ally you want to keep the closest. But IT, marketing, general operations, what do they have, or what is their skill set that can help you? I've been able to collaborate with the marketing team to create an automation flow through Jotform. And your data team might be able to help you set up a Power BI board, which links back to Microsoft Forms to give you that data. There might also be other programs in the business that are not being used in legal, but are being used by the business that you might be able to piggyback on as well.
Thank you so much, everyone. Give a lovely round of applause to our panelists.
Big round of applause. Nam, Jess, Janani, Philippa, that was fantastic. If you have any questions for any of our panelists, do find them at the coffee break, which is now. So for the next 20 minutes, you can have coffee. There's a coffee card in there, the Axiom coffee break. And we've also got ready-made coffee if you don't want to wait for coffee. We've also got a photo booth. Don't forget about the photo booth. And then we'll be back in 20 minutes for our next keynote, and so on and so forth. See you in 20.